When it comes to Brett, I'm thinking about three different hypothetical price scenarios, and this is maybe in an event where, if let's say there is even a fully fledged type of altcoin season during this cycle, but even though nothing I say is financial advice, I also want to just clarify real quick that I'm talking about Brett, the one on the base network. However, even besides that, what is the first hypothetical price scenario that I do want to explore? And that is maybe the idea of 50 cents. It's a 12.5x from here, and market cap at that point would be nearly 5 billion considering current circulating supply. The reason why this wouldn't necessarily surprise me is because I just find Brett as a pretty unique project, because when it comes to Brett, it is a meme coin on the base network. Why do I like the base network? It's because the base network is Coinbase's layer 2. Now, some people may be thinking, okay, there's many layer 2s out there. Totally understand that. But then at the same time, again, this is Coinbase's layer 2, right? Coinbase is very massive. Not only is it pretty massive in my perspective, but then it is on the S&P 500. It is publicly listed. And again, there may be a lot of layer 2s out there, but I kind of like this one due to its I would say, presence, right? Because other layer 2s out there, yeah, there's a lot, but this one I find pretty interesting and pretty unique. Now, let me explain real quick what a layer 2 does in this case. Like, for instance, there's many Ethereum layer 2s again. But then basically what they kind of do is that, in my perspective, they allow Ethereum to be enjoyed while at the same time not necessarily having to deal with some of the drawbacks. Like, for instance, the sky-high gas fees and the arguable scalability issues. And again, Ethereum is very popular as a layer 1 blockchain, so there is kind of a need, in my opinion, for some of these layer 2s. And just to give a couple examples of layer 2s, there is Arbitrum, there is something like Miria, right? There's also even something like Optimism, which actually, interestingly enough, helped build the base network in collaboration with Coinbase. So again, it's just something I wanted to mention real quick. But even besides that, what I find pretty interesting about the base network is that it actually does not have its own native token. Like, for instance, a lot of layer 2s out there, they have their own native token, right? But then when it comes to the base network, it actually doesn't have one. So for me, if I believe in it, and then there is no way to, acquire the native token of it, personally for me, right? What do I do instead? I instead believe on projects that are on there, which I find pretty interesting. Like, for instance, there's 3 projects that I'm very excited about when it comes to the base network. There's Brett, which I'm talking about right now. There's also Toshi, which is actually another meme coin, and that is named after Brian Armstrong's pet cat, and Brian Armstrong is the co-founder of Coinbase, by the way. And again, there's also Toshi, but then also there's something called Aerodrome. Now, Aerodrome, or should I say its native token called Aero, it's not a meme coin, right? If we take a look at Aerodrome, it is a decentralized exchange, but then again, those are just the 3 projects that I'm excited about right now when it comes to the base network. I'm not telling them to do anything, by the way, but when it comes to Brett, I like its presence. Hypothetically, at the idea of 50 cents, it wouldn't necessarily surprise me. Now, the second scenario that I do want to take a look at when it comes to Brett is maybe the idea of 55 cents, and that right there is a 13.75x from here, and market cap at that point would be nearly 5.5 billion considering current circulating supply. The reason why this wouldn't necessarily surprise me is because, Shiba Inu at one point, right, reached around a $40 billion market cap back in 2021. Dogecoin that year reached over 80 billion in terms of market cap. Like, I don't think this seems like such a ridiculous market cap, but again, this is just my perspective, but only time will tell. However, again, when I take a look at the base network, when I take a look at the presence, again, it just wouldn't necessarily surprise me. However, the third and final hypothetical price scenario that I do want to explore is maybe the idea of 60 cents. It's a 15x from here, and it would be nearly 6 billion in terms of market cap considering current circulating supply. And the reason why this wouldn't surprise me is that even though I don't think that the base network is necessarily the most popular layer 2 out there, I still like kind of the progression of it nonetheless, and also on top of that as well, I take a look at the Ethereum ETF, which I think could, really be hypothetically pretty good for Ethereum, and I think naturally, some of these layer 2s, much like the base network, could maybe go along with the ride, but only time will tell. Also, I like the Bitcoin ETF, and also on top of that, there are supposedly over 600 million crypto owners currently, which is supposedly more than ever before in history, and pretty much double the amount when compared to the peak of the 2021 bull run, whereas at that time, there was around 300 million. So, I just like the fact there's a lot better right now. If there was a fully fledged type of altcoin season during this cycle, it wouldn't surprise me if it looked better than back then, but this is just my perspective. Like, historically speaking, typically altcoins, as a worst case scenario, they usually peak around 18 months after a Bitcoin halving event. So 18 months from the last Bitcoin halving event, which happened in April of 2024, would actually be October of this year, right? And if we think about it, October is just like days away at this point. Like, it's so close. And it doesn't necessarily mean that, oh, it's going to be October, because that is just based off history. Like, it may be different this time around, if it ever even does. Like, it may even wait until March of next year. Who knows, right? So again, it may be different during this cycle, but ultimately speaking, whenever that timeline is, I just want to stay patient by just holding, waiting, dollar cost averaging, and that's pretty much about it. Because that's the only thing that's within my control. That's myself. And again, I can't control the markets. Even if I pulled up a price chart, drew a falling wedge pattern, or drew a random triangle, the market's not going to care about that. Like, why would it pay attention to that, right? Like, it's not. So instead, I'm just holding, waiting, and staying patient, and just basically waiting for a moment in time as opposed to trying to find the perfect time, if that makes sense. I'm treating it like a marathon. It's not a sprint for me. I'm not telling them to do anything, by the way, but this is just my outlook when it comes to it. And feel free to subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I'd greatly appreciate it. It's Malik the Captain, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.